Hey guys, Survival here. Today I wanted to go over a few key points about a few different types of knives. Here at Assess Bushcraft and Survival, one of the most common things we are asked is what is a good camp or bush knife and why certain knives aren't quite as suited to the job. So we're going to briefly go over a few things such as what is a good general purpose knife, key element to look for when wanting a knife for batoning wood, and what is a good pocket knife to use around a campsite, as well as what is an absolutely rubbish knife. We will show you what we personally believe to be one of, if not the worst, survival knives ever produced. One of those anywhere from $5 to $15 gimmicky survival knives where everything that they claim is survival equipment is stored in the handle. And we'll explain why we think it is absolute rubbish. So let's get to it. So, here are some knives that I wanted to have a look at and cover a few of the pros and cons for their use out in the bush. One of the first and most obvious things I wanted to point out is this knife here on the end. This is a $15 survival knife. In my opinion, it's rubbish. It's got a very cheap, low quality, fake leather sheath to it. It comes with a very questionable, low quality sharpening stone. The whole thing just feels cheap. The fit is very poor. And when you look at it, yeah, it looks alright, but the quality of the steel is absolutely atrocious. It struggles to hold an edge. All this on the top could have potentially been a use it once and that's it wood saw. However, it's just decorative. It's got some holes here through the handguard, which allow it to be tied to something like a stick, but really it's just not all that practical. Mostly because who's going to tie it to a stick perpendicular to the stick? And if you're trying to tie it parallel to the stick, it's just going to be horrible. You can tell just by looking at the end of it that it's one of those cheap survival knives. When you open the end, first thing you notice, a cheap dime a dozen compass. It doesn't even work properly. I mean, the bearing doesn't even keep it floated in the middle. It's not even pointing north properly. Very cheap, very low quality. Then, the next thing you notice is a few little gimmicks. So you've got some pathetically lightweight fishing hooks attached to some very thin, questionable quality fishing line. And you have a couple of matches. You get a needle, which I believe you could potentially use some of a fishing line to repair a torn bit of clothing. But that's it. And then you notice the worst part. Focusing in right on the bottom of this compartment, you can see a little nut. For two reasons this knife is rubbish. The first, the quality of the steel. It's absolutely bad steel, won't hold an edge. And this here is the second reason that this knife is rubbish. That nut down there is holding on to the blade. That's all that attaches this blade to this handle. There's a tiny bit of bar stock that's been threaded, The two are pushed together and a cheap, very questionable quality nut is attached to it. I mean, as you can see here, it's not even central. Unfortunately, what this means is you can't baton with this knife. Not that you'd want to anyway. So, let's have a look at some much better quality knives. This is the Cold Steel Recon Scout. A very good quality knife we have previously reviewed on this channel. Good high carbon steel, holds an edge very well. Thick, reliable. It's got a good grip to it. It's a very nice size and balances really well in the hand. This knife is full tang, continuing all the way through the handle. This is a very good general purpose knife to use in the bush. I've personally used this knife for approximately 10 years and it hasn't failed me. It sharpens easily. This is a good quality knife. The sheath is really handy. It's Kydex. As you could hear just then, it actually clips into its own sheath. So, the knife will not just fall out if the snip comes undone accidentally. Not that this one ever does. It's got a very good quality press stud on it. One of the features I do like about this sheath is that the belt loop has a very good quality Velcro plus a press stud, allowing you to take this knife on and off your belt without having to remove your belt. I also like the fact that there are plenty of points to lash the sheath onto your pack or onto anything you're wearing, or to wear it around your neck using the eyelets here, or those ones if you wish to have it upside down. It's a very practical, good quality knife. I highly recommend it. If, however, you want something a bit lighter, you're more fond of a Tanto, you can look at a knife similar to this. This is an M-Tech. It's got a paracord wrap grip. You can clearly see that it is full tang. This knife is very light. It does hold an edge. It's made of 440 steel. The main reason I like this knife, mostly because it is a very light knife, and that it actually does hold an edge. I've seen some knives hold an edge better. However, you get what you pay for. This was a good budget knife for me. The Tanto point is useful in certain circumstances. I also like the fact that the grip is very comfortable, and I like that for what it is and the $75 I paid for it, it's fairly good value. Now this is a knife that you could baton with, not that I'd recommend it. For batoning, I would recommend a large, thick spined knife, full tang, but one that you don't mind getting scratched or the edge getting damaged on. So I would advise something that's affordable, cheap, but that will last. This M-Tech comes with a very basic sheath. Take your belt off, put it on, and it's just got a little Velcro to hold the knife in the sheath. The sheath is reasonably well made. Once again, given the price point, I'm not going to complain. So you're probably wondering, why am I showing a pocket knife? Plenty of people think they get a good quality pocket knife and they're ready to go out and do most things in the bush. You need to remember that knives are like golf clubs. Each has its own purpose. Now, if you need to do some light duty work around the campsite, you need to whittle a small stick into a peg, for example, then a pocket knife is very handy. But you want one that's got a good high carbon steel blade, which will allow you to resharpen it when it dulls, and it has to hold an edge. But one of the most important features that you need on any pocket knife, your local laws permitting, is a blade lock. And what we mean by that is, as you probably heard just then, that blade locks open. You can't close it without releasing it. That way, when you're working, if for whatever reason you slip, the blade can't come closed on your fingers. I've seen plenty of people hurt themselves using non-locking blade pocket knives. They've slipped whilst whittling a stick into a peg and they've cut across their fingers across here. It's not pleasant, it's not fun, it hurts a lot, and in a survival situation, it could be the difference between life and death. Remember, you need your fingers to affect your survival. So, to release this, simply get your fingers out of the way, release the blade lock gently, bring the knife just past the lock point, get all your fingers out of the way, and close it. This is a Cold Steel Recon 1. It's a very good quality, comfortable, lightweight, balanced pocket knife. Once again, I highly recommend it. I've had this one for about 8 years. It's been serving me very well. Lastly, one other knife that I figured is worth mentioning. I would not recommend this knife as a general purpose survival knife, and that is a K-bar. It's a good knife. However, one must always remember this knife was made for a very specific purpose. It was originally, first and foremost, a fighting knife. This is not a knife to go batoning wood with. You can whittle down some sticks to make some emergency tent pegs. You can do a bit of light work with it. This knife is really good if you need to process an animal into food. This knife is very good for any moderate to light duty activity required, but it is not a purpose-made survival knife. First and foremost, this is a fighting knife. Yes, there are many legal uses you can use it for. Yes, it's a very good knife. Good high quality, high carbon steel. It holds an edge very well. However, as I said before, and I'll reiterate this is not made for batoning wood. I have seen many people ruin these knives by using them to baton wood. Please don't do it. If you want to baton wood, get a full tang knife that is of a cheap price but has high enough carbon steel that it will hold an edge. Something that you don't mind breaking, something that's easily replaceable. Batoning wood is extremely hard on a blade. It is also extremely hard on any handle or grip. Generally speaking, my main reasons for saying that this knife is not for batoning: first of all, the blade's not as thick as I would like for batoning. Secondly, you're going to risk damaging the point on this, because where it tapers towards the point, it thins out a lot. You will potentially risk ruining the integrity of that point, depending how hard you hit it, what angle you hit it at, or what it comes into contact with when you're batoning. There could be nails, there could be old bullets stuck within trees from years past. You don't know until you've opened up that bit of wood. And further, why ruin a perfectly good edge on a perfectly good knife? I'm a firm believer, if you want to do hard, rugged work with a blade, get one that you're not afraid to destroy. You get a good quality knife like this, it's going to have quite a price tag with it in most cases, depending on where you live in the world, especially if it's brand new. It's a kind of knife you want to take care of. You want to use it in work that it is suited to. Something like this, many times cheaper. However, yes, you can see it's full tang. As such, personally, if I was batoning wood and only had a choice between this M-Tech and that K-bar, I would personally use this M-Tech. It cost me a lot less than the K-bar, whilst it's about the same thickness, because it cost me less, I don't mind if it gets damaged, if the edge gets damaged. It's replaceable, easily replaceable, and well within my budget to replace. The K-bar, on the other hand, I don't remember the exact amount, but I remember it cost me over $200 brand new. That is not a knife that I want to risk damaging. This was under $100. To me, this is a general purpose utility bush knife or survival knife. That said, if you're happy to risk damaging or destroying an expensive knife, then feel free to use whatever knife you like. I like to personally take care of my knives. The most expensive knife that I own is this Cold Steel Recon Scout. I've heavily used this knife for a good decade, and it looks almost brand new. Why? Because I've taken care of it. I look after it, I use it well, and it serves me well. It looks after me. Like with anything. Look after it, and it will last you. But please, avoid buying these so-called survival knives. These are rubbish. These will break immediately. They don't hold an edge. Take your first couple swings batoning wood, it'll break right off around this point where that nut is. It's not worth wasting the time or money on. We have this knife here at the Assessed Bushcraft and Survival Homestead purely to demonstrate why it is a bad knife. To show everyone what to look out for with really cheap knives. These range anything from $5 to $15 depending where you get them. Personally, I don't even reckon they're worth the $5 you can get them for. They're a gimmick that looks cool and that can be sold easily, and that's why they're made. It's an easy way to get money from people who don't know better. If you have any friends or family or colleagues who are talking about, hey, I want to get a survival knife, please advise them. Do not get cheap, poorly made knives like this. I mean, you can see there, it's clearly not full tang. They didn't even drill the hole to mount the blade to it centrally. And it's a tiny nut, and the steel is of questionable quality. I've tried to sharpen this knife many times. It just refuses to hold an edge. It had one when I first got it, ran a few classes with it, just to demonstrate the point that you get a cheap, low quality steel blade, it won't hold an edge. Never been able to get it to hold an edge ever again. I hope this video has been informative and helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments regarding knives suitable for use in the bush or in survival situations, please feel free to leave a comment below. We'll do our best to address any questions or concerns you may have regarding what makes a good knife. Just to go over it one last time. General purpose, lightweight, camp use, processing animals into food, so light butchery work. Very good knife for cutting, slicing, but not for batoning. Pocket knife, that's good for some very good fine work. So slicing, cutting of food, for example. It has a blade lock, which also means that it is safe to use. It won't just close on your hand, and is suitable for whittling small things such as twigs or little sticks into emergency tent pegs or other relevant tools. The M-Tech here, it's a good general purpose knife. I would say this one comes in as a budget knife. It is a very good one if you want to use it for batoning, because it'll hold an edge well enough to do most work that you need. It's cheap enough that if you break it while batoning, it's not really all that much of a concern. Plus, it comes with paracord wrap handle, and you can see it's completely full tang. That's a good general purpose knife that you shouldn't be afraid to use heavily and risk damaging. You can easily replace it. And this here at the end, Cold Steel Recon Scout, that is a good high quality general purpose knife. It's physically heavy enough to cleave at joints and meat. It is also balanced well enough and holds an edge extremely well, but you can do a lot of general purpose work such as butchery, food preparation, whittling, you name it, this knife will do it well. So remember, stay safe in the bush.